Well, hey there, everybody. Now, I don't even know if you're going to be able to hear me over all these birds, but we're going to give this Big Cypress a shot. We're just going second set, December 31st, 1999. Now, I know the 30th was an excellent show. The first set of this night was nothing to, just brush over. But this is really, when you talk Big Cypress, this is what we're talking about. You're talking about the New Year's Eve set, 1999, taking you into the new millennium, Y2K, what was going to happen. You were all down there on an Indian reservation. You probably didn't really care what was going to happen. I had a few friends, people that I knew from growing up, that made the trek down there. Unfortunately, I was not all in on Phish yet, so it was not even a consideration. I do remember where I was, though, and I often think about that when I listen to this show. I was standing around a pool table at this girl Allison's house at a New Year's Eve party. Lots of underage kids drinking beer and playing pool. Hey, at least we were at a house party. We were being safe. So let's get on to the show. And then, oddly enough, I'm going to start with how it began and ended. Obviously, you got to start at the beginning. And then we're going to jump all the way to the end because they start with Meat Stick, they end with Meat Stick. But really, you feel like the end, the Velvet Sea always gets thrown in there. I mean, you almost forget. The Velvet Sea, from people that were there, was just so magical, I guess. But then listening back, it's almost like, could they have just continued to 2001 and skipped the Velvet Sea and Meat Stick? Now, I know the way it ended was perfect. Nobody's asking for anything different. But listen back to it now, all these years later. If that 2001 had just rolled all the way out until the end of the show, I think people would have been fine with that too. The sun rising to that song. And then actually I didn't do this on purpose. I started this show yesterday, and then the cats woke me up once again at like 4 a.m. today, so I continued my listening there, and I mistimed it a little bit. I was somewhere around Piper when the sun started to rise, but if I could have done that a little better, I might have even put myself somewhat there. Big Cypress vibes, man. So then another interesting thing, I can't just go song by song, obviously no a whiteboard, but like the jamming, almost how sometimes a big jam of the night will change throughout the song. That's kind of how the whole night went. It's like the entire set was one big jam. And then early on, it was just like after the New Year's Eve celebration, it was just Down with Disease, rock and roll. Both felt like just straight ahead burners, rock and roll. Kind of a big celebration. It's New Year's Eve, everybody's partying, kicking balloons in the air, confetti, all this type of things, So that's how the music sounded. Somewhere around Cross-Eyed and Painless, though, there started to be a little bit of a turn. Cross-Eyed had a little bit of that burner feel to it, but then as it was turning, we start to get into like maybe the second part of like when things are changing. The Sand had just a perfect late night feel to it. 1999 sound, had it even scary at points, Hate to use the word ambient, but I mean, what else could you say about that kind of late night 1999 Phish sound? And this Sand was absolutely it. Maybe if you were wondering, like, what did they sound like in 99? Just listen to this Sand pretty much. They gave the quadraphonic toppling from the Sicket disc a shot after that. It was a nice try, good place to put it. If they were ever going to try it, they've done it once more since then. But this was a nice shot, but it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of all right. And then we get into this whole, like the jamming had kind of started to shift. Now it wasn't so much improvised, or, they weren't getting too out there, nothing too experimental, but all awesome. Slave to the Traffic Light, Reba, David Bowie, all coming within about an hour of one another. They sprinkled in like Axilla and My Soul just to kind of wake the place back up. And man, Slave, Reba, Bowie, just 1, 2, 3, all great. I mean, coming from that sort of early era of songwriting, kind of gave this whole set, like Curtain Width would have fit nicely right into here. Maybe even a Hood, Antelope, not so much. So, one of my favorite parts of the night probably was that. I did like the Sand a lot too. If you can even start with the Sand, even start with the Cross-Eyed all the way through, like the Bowie maybe. And then it starts to get a little bit like, oh, this is what we've done all night. Like the Drowned was quick and short and sweet, but man, it was a ripper. Kind of had a Down with Disease feel to it. And then they go into After Midnight. After Midnight kind of played around, kind of ran the field of what they can do there. Not maybe my least favorite of the highlighted songs, the After Midnight. And then here comes the Piper. Piper just completely shredding, like everybody needs to wake up. Here we go, man. And it felt like there were several times like the show could have ended with Slave to the Traffic Light. It could have ended with the Bowie. I mean, my God, it could have ended all the way back with the YEM. Very average YEM tossed in the middle of all this. an outstanding Bathtub Gin too, way back in that early section. They were doing this really cool kind of vocal jam thing. Not even a vocal jam, just kind of like cool little vocal part, almost like an extra instrument in the Bathtub Gin jam. But then we're all the way to the Piper. After the Piper, they went with the Horse, Silent in the Morning, Bittersweet Motel. Kind of needed to cool down. I mean, I don't know how they had the energy for that Piper this deep into it. The Roses Are Free. It was a little bit weird, but still amazing that they were still going. You know, The Roses Are Free again kind of felt like, oh, this has been the whole night. And then there's parts in that where it sounded like Mike was playing an upright bass. It was definitely The Roses and the Free is when I certainly was like, man, we need officially released recording of this. Come on, man. And like what was going on with the bass sound in Roses, and then Free, probably maybe one of the overlooked songs like that, and Bathtub Gin maybe get a little bit overlooked just with all the incredible you know, with that Slave and the Cross-Eyed, the Down with Disease, the Rock and Roll, the Roses. Then you got a little bit of a, we're playing Hood, we're not. I don't know what that was all about. Maybe they felt like, we missed our opportunity. We should have played Hood back in the Slave, Reba, David Bowie section of the night. And then they go into 2001, which felt very fitting. And then, like I'm saying, listen back all these years later, they could have just rolled with 2001. Let the Sun Rise. Everybody would have been happy. Turns out Velvet Sea, pretty perfect too. I've never heard anybody that was there complain about that Velvet Sea. I may be the first person to complain about the ending of Big Cypress. Not really complaining though, actually. Favorite parts, obvious parts, the Gin, like I mentioned, that Gin, the Slave, Down with Disease, Rock and Roll, Cross-Eyed, Sand, I mean, Piper, Free, Rose. There's like 4 hours of highlights. Hey, look at our Cashew making a cameo in the video. I came out here to get away from cats. You can't do it. So, all right, that about does it. Look at that, Big Cypress in 7 minutes, guys. Boom. Thank you. We are out of here.